Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags, and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Just remember all the good the purge does.
Good morning, everyone. It is July 23rd, or 24th, rather, 2018. America is insolvent, or America the Insolvent. This comes from Chris Martinson. I saw a report last night talking about Yellowstone. It seems that there are a lot of things going on there. A lot. And one among them is the ground swelling is occurring much quicker than the so-called experts expected. And what they call it, the dome, I guess that's what they called it. It's growing on the side of the mountain that it's not supposed to grow on. So I think Yellowstone will be erupting. It's just a matter of when now. Anyway. And of course we think we're broke now. If that happens, there's not going to be any economy or anything like that. So this author says, watching the world these days, I'm experiencing the same fury that rises up from my gut when the driver in the car ahead of me is weaving drunkenly, endangering everyone on the road. Fury is a normal and rational human response when threatened with unnecessary harm. Women who are groped, or worse, by a disgusting predator like Harvey Weinstein, pensioners whose funds are stolen by Wall Street shysters, everyone who is being fleeced by corporations in search of a few extra dollars this quarter, all have the right to be infuriated. It's been especially hard of late for those of us who are reality-based, who value data, fundamentals, and historical context. I earn my living by reading, analyzing, and making sense of the world, and then working to help orientate people's actions to align with both the current reality and future probabilities. But that's become pretty damn difficult in a world where the financial markets are rigged and the main news outlets are unwilling or unable to cover the real issues, preferring instead to focus on distractions that mainly serve to keep us isolated and divided. The trajectory our global society is on will not end well, and that infuriates me. And the fact that most of the coming suffering is unnecessary. If only we'd make better choices, that really pisses me off. Well, let me stop right there. We're not making these choices. Our government is making these choices. These things are out of our hands. Can't let what these tyrants do rattle you. You gotta stay a strong pillar of stone. It's not us doing this, it's them. And that's why I keep telling you, they are the biggest threat to you. Not some fucking prisoner in a cell that may or may not be released when one of these events happens. No. The people who have done this are your biggest threat. So here's just a small smattering of the threats we've created for ourselves. Although, I must say that, we've allowed these assholes to do it. We could have rioted in the streets. We could have burned these cities down. We could have done all kinds of things, but no. Instead, we sit complacently in our lazy boys and drink our beers, and smoke our cigarettes or weed, and watch our televisions. Okay, so 247 trillion of global debt growing exponentially. Now, and just so you have some sort of idea of how much that is, you can take all the sand on the beaches of the world, and 247 trillion is more than that sand. Number 2, off-budget liabilities well over $250 globally. That's 220 plus trillion in the U.S. alone. Number 3, massive underfunded pension, mathematically unable to meet their future obligations. Pensions. And these are the pensions of police officers, teachers, state employees. Those people are going to be fucked. Number 4, a coming peak in oil supply somewhere between 2020 and 2030, and around 2022 for the U.S. People have been talking about peak oil for a long time, and unless we see that data, I'm going to assume that they're lying. Number 5, a global economy that requires perpetual growth, but can't grow for much longer due to planetary resource constraint. Number 6, huge demographic imbalances in Japan, the US, the EU, and Russia that will leave too few workers supporting too many elderly. Number 7, and let me stop right there. There has been a massive downturn in the birth rate. A lot of people want to blame it on one thing or another, but the truth of the matter is, the reason why people aren't having children is because at the subconscious level, they know they are captive. And humans do not breed well in captivity. So, okay, number 7. Collapsing ecosystems and increasing heat waves on both land and sea, threatening crop failures and food chain disruptions. This, number 7, it's already a done deal. There will be a huge food shortage in short order as a result of this year's weather. Last year we had, we had a whole bunch of bad weather, floods and whatnot. It's gotten worse this year. Last year we lost a whole bunch of crops. This year we lost much more, and that's worldwide. So no matter what, no matter how you see this, you think an economic collapse is going to create shit hitting the fan, or maybe martial law, or it doesn't matter. One of these things are going to happen. Collectively, these all point to a future of less, perhaps even a future of nothing. And that's what it boils down to. Let me jump over here. You know how they were saying in that article that the corporations are trying to get a few extra dollars out of this quarter? Well, here's one for you, since your government is a corporation. Greedy lawmakers now push a tax on most basic human necessity, tap water. This comes from Rachel Blevins. As residents in New Jersey prepare to pay for the latest budget increase passed by their state legislature, which will cost a whopping $37 billion, one state lawmaker is openly proposing a tax on one of the most basic resources that every individual uses on a daily basis, tap water. Democratic Senator Bob Smith is pushing for the tax, which he refers to as a user fee that will be forced upon residents based on how much tap water they use. He claimed that the goal for the tax would be to prevent conditions from resulting in rampant lead contamination, as has been seen in Flint, Michigan over the last 4 years. Here's the deal. Flint, Michigan is just the tip of the iceberg. There's water municipalities and cities with water worse than Flint, Michigan. And that's pretty hard to beat. So, there have been some studies done on the water supply in the school system and in some urban and suburban areas, and it appears that the more than 100-year-old water infrastructure is starting to fall apart, and it's starting to leach serious contaminants into the water like lead. And it's similar to the Flint, Michigan problem, Smith told Fox 5 News. Smith is proposing a 10-cent tax on every 1,000 gallons of water a home uses, which he claims will cost families an average of $32 a year. The state senator has proposed a concurrent resolution that would include taxes on tap water and taxes on water diversion. 10 cents every 1,000 gallons. It wouldn't be a whole lot, but still, it really demonstrates their desperation. 10 cents per 1,000. The water consumption, and this is in quotes by the way, the water consumption user fee would be charged to water customers based on the amount of water they consume. The resolution states, the water diversion user fee would be charged to any person required to obtain a permit from the state to divert water and be based on the amount of water diverted. Both fees would be imposed under a separate act of the legislature. So, if you're like on a farm or something like that, and you need to divert water every 1,000 gallons, you're going to have to do a double tax. So it'd be 20 cents for every 1,000 gallons of water. While Smith makes it sound as though the fight to keep tap water free from lead contamination is a new battle, the report from Fox 5 noted that the state already charges a public utility franchise tax on water system operators of 1 cent per 1,000 gallons of water delivered to a customer. The current tax has been in place since 1984, and it was sold with the promise that it would ensure clean drinking water in New Jersey. These monies never go where these people say it's going. Never. The timing of the proposal is also being criticized, as it was introduced around the time that New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy signed a massive $37.4 million state budget into law. I wonder if that number is correct, $37.4 million. I mean, it doesn't seem like enough to pay one police department for a year. While the new budget specifically targets millionaires and corporations in the state, Murphy bragged about how much it would help public schools and public transit. But residents have to ask, if the tap water system is in such dire need of repairs, why wasn't it introduced in the budget or included? Good question. So, that's what this author is talking about here. Let's see here. No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Okay. In this article. So, all these enumerated points collectively, these all point to a future of less, perhaps even a future of nothing. Our only option for safely navigating forward or toward a better future is to start dedicating a huge amount of focus, time, energy, and resources to addressing these threats. But unfortunately, that's simply not happening right now. Well, it's not going to happen. I mean, do Americans face threats? Especially when it comes from the government. No, they're not going to address these threats. It's just going to keep going downhill. Even with your savior, your God, Donald Trump, in office. We don't have much time left to get prepared. Yes, it's rare for things to suddenly fall apart overnight, so if you're playing the odds, we probably have a few years left before the status quo as we know it begins to break down, maybe until 2020, possibly to 2023, but not much longer after that. I'm not to disagree with him there. I think it's going to happen before 2020, but I could be wrong. Definitely could be wrong, since it's, just a year and a half away. The trends are just too severe, and they're building up steam, just like Yellowstone. Setting aside for a moment the frightening ecological and energy trends, a cursor glance at the physical and economic data still screams, this is unsustainable. Look at the projected deficit for the U.S. government. This is deficit in the updated budget projections, and this is in billions. 2018, it's what is that? 75.38, something like that. But I'm not really a charts guy, but you can see the growth of this all the way up till 2028. The U.S. government is currently in fiscal tax year 2018. That means next year's projected deficit will breach the trillion mark, and things only get worse from there. By 2028, the deficit will be at least 1.7 trillion and possibly as much as 2.4 trillion. And this is already on top of the trillions of dollars referred to up here. So, It bears noting that the current U.S. tax receipts are just a smidge over $2 trillion, and as the chart below shows, the trend to drop precipitously during recessions. Delusionally, the government's projection of federal deficit doesn't include any provisions for recessions over the next decade. This is nuts. Recessions are a normal and reoccurring part of our economic system, and due to the Federal Reserve's tinkering to control the business cycle by replacing it with a credit cycle, the next recession is likely to be a doozy, because when credit cycles burst, they are immediately and powerfully contractory, meaning it contracts the economy. So, I don't need to read this whole article to you for you to understand that one way or the other, we are going to have to jump off this sinking ship. Mutiny probably would be a good idea before the ship sinks, but we know how that would work out. Most people would stay in their home and stay on their lazy boy, drinking their beer, smoking their weed, and nothing would happen. Anyway, hope you all have a great day. Kill the state, live free.